All right, tonight I thought I would talk about one of the most important things in trying to be successful throwing the football. Whether you have a great offensive line, whether you have a great quarterback, especially if you're limited with receivers and you only have a couple of decent receivers, but that's about moving the pocket. Uh, and when we talk about moving the pocket, there's basically six things that are really important: the why, the how, the when, positive, the negatives, and how do you teach the quarterback when we're moving the pocket. Let's start with the why. Um, when we make a decision that we're going to move the pocket, basically meaning that the quarterback is going to try to change the launch point for where he throws the ball from being somewhere in the tackle box to now being outside of the tackle box and trying to get on the edge, and preferably to get outside of the widest defender. And so you ask yourself, why do you do that? What's the reasoning behind doing that? Well, first of all, and most importantly, is that it helps your offensive line to be successful. One of the hardest things in football is for usually the worst group of athletes on the field to do the most difficult job on the field, which is to backpedal, take a player who is better than them, more athletic than them, faster than them, and tell them that you have to back up, backpedal, and engage and keep them off of your quarterback for normally somewhere around 3 seconds. That's one of the most difficult things to do in all of football. So when you move the pocket and you change the launch point, and the launch point now basically becomes uh, outside the box, and the quarterback is able to be free and to run, is that you give your offensive line a much easier job. It's something that's much easier for them to be able to do. The other thing it does is that it helps your quarterback to simplify his reads. A lot of times you can just go with two-man route combinations and work off of one defender. So, in other words, you can high-low a cornerback, you can curl flat a hold a player to where that the quarterback very simply has two guys running a route. Everybody else is involved in the blocking scheme, and the quarterback just throws it off of what that zone defender does. And that simplifies that any quarterback, regardless of their arm talent and regardless of their running talent, they're able to do that. The next thing that it does, the third thing, is that it really helps to control the tempo of the defensive line. Defensive lineman, it takes away any of the purposes of running any of the line twist or stunts that defensive linemen run. It gets them out of a normal rhythm that they're used to. And basically, defensive linemen hate that. It also, the fourth point, is that it really can help to make defensive linemen get really tired, because now they have to run across the field. So instead of running the closest point being a straight line back to somebody that's 7 yards from where you lined up, now his throwing point may actually be 15, 18, 20 yards away from you, and you've got to run all that distance to get anywhere near him. So in the long run, that helps to make the defensive lineman tired. The other thing it really does, and this is one of the things that I really enjoyed back when I was doing high school consulting and I was going and coaching schools on Friday nights and helping call plays. It hasn't worked as well in college, although I have hit several big play throwback screens as a college coach. But that is where we roll out for 3 to 5 steps, stop, the defensive line is all chasing, they all think they've won, and then you turn, you throw back, and you've got 2 or 3 offensive linemen out for the screen on the throwback screen. And then finally, it gives your quarterback an easy reception, an easy completion. So because most quarterbacks, regardless of their talent, by cutting the distance down for how far it is that they throw the football, they're able to complete a rollout pass of some nature. When do you do it? One of the best times to run a rollout pass is the first play of the game. Quarterbacks really like that. It gives them an easy completion. They know they're not going to get sacked. Anytime a quarterback can start the game off 1-for-1, regardless of the yardage, it's something really good for him. It gets him in the middle part. So one of the best times to run any type of a rollout pass is the first play of the game. Short yardage and you're expecting a blitz. Well, if it's short yardage and you're expecting a blitz, you're probably going to get man coverage. And now you can roll the pocket out, move your pocket, makes your blocking a whole lot easier, has the chance of getting sacked a lot less. And then you can also now run your rub and pick game to where one guy runs a basketball pick for another guy, makes it a really short, easy throw for the quarterback. Play action naked after you've run the ball multiple times. So, for example, play action obviously means that we're going to fake to somebody. Naked basically means all the O-line is going to go one way and the quarterback is going to go the other way and be by himself. So once you've run the ball 3, 4, 5 times in a row, a naked is always a good thing to do after that. A new quarterback enters the game. If you got a new quarterback that comes in the game, it's 3rd and 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7, and you think you need to throw the football, the easiest way to do it is to roll him out. He can come off the bench cold, roll out, and even in the process of just rolling out, as he's rolling out, is that his body will loosen up and you can almost hand the ball off when you're rolling out. I always tell the quarterbacks to follow the throw so that they could tackle the guy when he caught the football. Another time is when the defensive line is really penetrating. So if you've got a great D line and they're really getting after your QB, one of the best things that you can do is roll him out. And then the other thing is your quarterback just got sacked or has gotten sacked more than once in the evening. One of the things that will help him to get his confidence back and to not be afraid is to know that you're going to roll him out after that happens. How do we do it? The first way is that we sprint out. In other words, the quarterback takes the snap, opens his feet, and starts to run a sprint towards the sideline. And all of the offensive linemen reach the outside shoulder pad of the person closest to them. The advantage to that is you don't have to have the running back on the same side. And sometimes that's a big advantage. Sprint out and reach away from the back. So in other words, the sprint out is away from the running back. So your running back is on the left, you roll out to the right. That means now that your tackle has the widest edge defender. That's a hard block for him. But for some reason, sometimes they do better without knowing the back is coming than they do when they know the back is there with them. I think they work a little bit harder. Sprint out with motion to help reach an edge defender. If you're having trouble with edge defenders, you can motion somebody. You can motion one of two backs. You can motion a receiver from the opposite side, and they can then get over to that side and they can help reach that edge defender, get in his face until the tackle can get there. Turn back protection is the favorite protection of every O-lineman and every O-line coach. All they basically do is if you're rolling out right, they all turn and block the backside gap. It's the easiest block ever invented in football, and offensive line coaches love it because everybody almost always grades 100% in that. The problem is you now have to have two guys on the play side in order to block just a simple outside edge defender. You need two guys. One guy's going to take the first D lineman, the other guy would take whoever the edge guy is that's coming next. Dash protection means the quarterback starts on a drop back, and then after his second or third step, as the offensive line starts on a drop back protection, they then turn and block the backside gap. The quarterback then turns into a sprinter, sprints out away from which way the O-line turns, and it's another way of getting on the edge. Naked with a play fake away and a free edge defender. So in other words, it's a true naked now. All the offensive line runs zone to the opposite side. You fake it. When you turn around, if the edge defender, last guy on the line, decided to head up the field, you're in trouble. He's going to hit you right in the mouth, and we work drills with that. And then the other naked is the one the Rams made famous the last 3 years, and that is naked while you're pinning the edge. So in other words, you use an extra O lineman, you use a tight end, you use the motion back to block the edge defender with a better angle of being able to do that. What are the positives of moving the pocket? Quarterback with a weak arm is closer to the target. It's a lot easier throw for a quarterback with a weak arm. Bad offensive line gets help. It's perfect with tempo offense because you don't have to count out and identify fronts. All the offensive line either reaches or turns back on the protection. And then it truly simplifies the playbook. You can run 3-man routes, but it's hard to run 4 and 5-man routes. That makes it a lot simpler in building it. What are the negatives? Okay, it turns everything into a half the field read. The quarterback is not going to be able to read both sides. And if you got a good quarterback, that's a huge disadvantage for him. If you got a bad quarterback, it doesn't matter. It makes it easier. Big loss on nakeds is possible. And if that does happen, then you have to block all the defensive line. So in other words, if we're running a naked, or even if we're running a rollout and one of the O-linemen screws up early, you got a chance for a deeper sack, deeper loss of yardage. Offensive lineman gets lazy because it's easy. Sometimes the easier it is, the harder it is to block because everybody has a tendency to relax when it's easy. And then finally, the quarterback isn't guaranteed to be successful against this just because it's half the field. Some quarterbacks really struggle throwing the ball on the run. How do you teach the quarterback? We do what we call the yo-yo drill. We face each other 10 yards apart. We just run real slow. And then as we get ready to throw the ball, we speed up a little bit. The person who catches the football is going backwards away from me. Once he catches it, like a yo-yo, he comes back at me and I go backwards and he throws me the ball. 1-step flat drill. I take the snap, I go 1 step and I'm ready to throw the ball on the first step. That's why I go flat. Then I don't have to worry about taking a crossover step and a 3rd step. 3-step flat drill, same thing. The only difference is I go 3 steps before I change the read. On a 1-step flat drill, if I don't throw it, I get depth on the 2nd and 3rd and 4th steps. On a 3-step flat drill, I go 3 steps flat, and then I change the projection after the 3rd step, and I lose ground. 3-step angle drill, meaning I go 3 steps at a 45-degree angle. And the reason I would do that instead of a 1-step or 3-step flat is that it is a deeper early read. So for example, if the first read was a 7, 8, 9, 10-yard route, then I can probably get a 3-step angle route. If it's anything less than that, I'm probably going to have to go flat with my quarterback footwork in his drill stuff. Naked in your face. In other words, you run naked and you have somebody in your face. So you pump him to get him up in the air. He jumps up in the air, makes him look like a fool. You go on the edge and make your throw. It's naked in his face. And then you have get big drill. So I'm naked, but I'm far enough away that I can get the ball off. I just have to get really, really tall up on my toes, make sure that I keep my arm up high and I can throw the ball over the top of him. And then finally is rollouts to where that I go through read progression. I'll go 1, 2, and then the 3rd progression is run the football. So those are the most important things that you can do in trying to teach a quarterback and throwing on the run.